Chapter 2030, God Seal's Spell. Chapter 2030. God Seal's Spell. Yi Futian was exacting his revenge for the last fight by wiping the floor with Yin Dongyang. He would not hold back, since the great Yin ancient royal family provoked him first. What upset him the most was that the cultivators from the great Yin ancient royal family targeted him and attacked the Lung family. They severely injured Lung Qinghan and humiliated her. That being so, there was no need for Yi Futian to feign politeness anymore. He retaliated directly. A great number of cultivators raised their heads to look at Yi Futian. They were shocked by the gap between Yi Futian and Yin Dongyang. Yi Futian and Yin Dongyang were not at the same level at all. Yin Dongyang couldn't withstand one strike from Yi Futian and was badly wounded. The Sword Emperor Liuyan certainly deserved the reputation he enjoyed. The battle at Donghua Academy made Yi Futian rise to fame. Now it appeared that he was indeed extremely powerful. Since he was at a lower cultivation plane than Yin Dongyang, he must overwhelm Yin Dongyang with his divine wheel of the Great Path to utterly defeat him. Yi Futian intentionally put Yin Dongyang to shame and made the crown prince of the great Yin ancient royal family mortified in front of everyone. How devastating! Many people were feeling sorry for Yin Dongyang. The great Yin ancient royal family provoked them first and wanted to secure a leading position over the opponent from the very beginning. They never expected that Yi Futian would join the fight himself to take revenge. Yi Futian left the law battle platform and returned to his seat. But Yin Dongyang couldn't go back on his own. The cultivators from the great Yin ancient royal family had to help him up. He looked even more pathetic than Lung Qinghan moments ago. Although Yin Dongyang was barely breathing, he glared at Yi Futian with deep hatred. But Yi Futian acted as if he didn't notice Yin Dongyang at all. He picked up the wine glass and took a sip without speaking. An awkward silence filled the air. Even though people from the great Yin ancient royal family were furious, there was nothing they could do. No one from the great Yin could handle Yi Futian. The great Yin ancient royal family had several princes, but none were in the same league as Yi Futian. It seemed that they had no choice but to accept the defeat. Is that the gate to world suppression? Emperor, she asked the Millet Emperor inside of the Donghua Palace. Kind of. Millet Emperor nodded and said. But it's completely different now. It's based on the gate to world suppression, but has become something of his own. He combined it with his own ability and pieced it together. It may look like the gate to world suppression, but it is a perfect blend with his own power of the Great Path. All right. Emperor, she nodded and said with a smile. He is a good student. I'm surprised that he could develop the rare art of supreme attack, instead of simply copying it. This young man has a creative mind. Any ordinary cultivator who obtained such a powerful art of sorcery would follow it strictly. Yi Futian was different. He combined it with his own power and transformed it completely, so it only looked like the gate to world suppression now. One strike contains several types of power of the Great Path. It's an impressive blow. An ordinary middle-level Renhuang without a perfect divine will could hardly handle it, the thunder-punishing Skylord commented. Yi Futian was strong enough to fight against a high-level Renhuang without a perfect divine wheel. Even a middle-level Renhuang, who had a perfect divine will didn't stand a chance against his attack. Indeed, Wangshan Watchtower raised 2 legends. Millet Emperor, you don't need to worry about finding a successor now, Chief Ning said with a mirthless smile. Their casual conversation only made the cultivators from the great Yin ancient royal family even more inflamed. At this point, another person walked into the law battle platform in the 7 heavens. Plenty of Renhuangs in the 9 heavens were surprised to see this man. He was a high-level Renhuang in the Donghua heavens, and had reached the peak of the 7th order after years of cultivation. People at his level had already enjoyed a high status in society. Although cultivators had to keep studying and progressing, no matter what plane they had reached, they would rarely participate in such an event or ask to become a disciple of another top cultivator. Who would this 7th order Renhuang challenge? He hovered over the law battle platform and looked above and said, I have been cultivating in the Donghua heavens, and I have long heard of the reputation of the vice chief. I want to seize this opportunity to ask the vice chief for some advice. Many people narrowed their eyes, but they were not too surprised. This would happen sooner or later. Ninghua was a prominent man in the Donghua domain. Millions of cultivators were dying to see how powerful the best genius of the Donghua domain truly was. Since the chief had granted them the chance to challenge whomever they wanted, someone would definitely aim at Ninghua eventually. Therefore, no one was shocked. Instead, they watched the platform with expectant eyes. How powerful is the vice chief? We can finally watch the best genius of our Donghua domain in action. While the audience was whispering to each other, someone spoke loudly. I assume Ninghua could defeat him with one strike, like how the Sword Emperor Liunian defeated Yin Dongyang just now. Yes, the vice chief only needs one blow if he gives his all. Everyone was on the edge of their seats. Even the top cultivators sitting in Donghua Palace were staring at Ninghua, waiting with bated breath. They all wanted to see Ninghua display his ability. Under everyone's close watch, Ninghua stood up and walked to the law battle platform from Donghua Academy. They faced each other in the law battle area. The Seventh Order Renhuang showed off his divine wheel and formed a terrifying energy field. He said to Ninghua, "Please. Please." Ninghua replied with one word as well. Stepping forward, he shot dazzling light out of his scary eyes. The divine light of the Great Path surrounded his body and suffused the endless sky with mystic runes. Grand Seal Great Path. Everybody watched Ninghua. The Grand Seal Great Path was the power of the Great Path that Ninghua mainly cultivated. Other Great Paths and techniques all supported and facilitated Grand Seal Great Path. He learned it from the chief, and it was said to be a domineering force. While the divine light of the seals was shining brilliantly, the Seventh Order Renhuang looked into Ninghua's eyes and felt as if the light came from the middle of his brow. He was placed into a world of seals. Not only his great path was limited, but his spiritual will was also invaded. Nothing felt real to him. Buzz! The divine light of the seals dazzled the world. Ninghua stepped forward and hovered above his opponent. Formidable spiritual will burst out of his body while runes flying out one after another. It was the extremely powerful God Seal spell that could seal his opponent's will and spiritual soul, incapacitating him altogether. The law battle area turned into a prison of the Great Path, which sealed off the power of the Great Path, locked up the divine wheel, and even imprisoned the spiritual soul. The Seventh Order Renhuang was trembling slightly. A giant seal popped up in his mind, as if it was an ancient rune that he couldn't repel. Am I really that far behind? He thought to himself. Even though he had prepared himself mentally, he was still frustrated and discouraged by the gap between him and Ninghua. He couldn't withstand the attack at all since his great path was sealed. The chief's God Seal spell was indeed dreadful. The Seventh Order Renhuang's body was flung back as Ninghua stomped his foot. The seal disappeared, and everything returned to normal. The Seventh Order Renhuang raised his head to look at Ninghua, having trouble believing what had happened just now. He bowed slightly and said, "The Vice Chief truly has unparalleled talent. I suppose no one in the Donghua domain can surpass you. Thanks for your nice words." Ninghua didn't stay to chat. They both left the law battle area. The audience exclaimed excitedly, "That is Ninghua, unmatched in the Donghua domain. The finest genius in the Donghua domain. Didn't even give a Seventh Order Renhuang a chance to launch an attack. How domineering. As strong as the Sword Emperor Liunian is, he is still not a match for the Vice Chief." Some people were comparing Yi Futian to Ninghua. After all, rumor had it that Yi Futian's divine wheel of the Great Path was as good as Ninghua's. But many people were not convinced. Although Yi Futian had extraordinary talent and had displayed remarkable ability while crushing Yin Dongyang just now, he was still not on a par with Ninghua, even if their divine wheels of the Great Path were at a similar level. The divine wheel of the Great Path wasn't a decisive factor. While the crowd was murmuring, a lot of Renhuang sitting in the Nine Heavens were speaking to each other as well. The challenger was an established high-level Renhuang in the Donghua Heavens. Yet he was defeated right away, not even getting a chance to attack. After Ninghua returned to Donghua Academy, the Palace Lord of the Lingxiao Palace said with a smile, "Ninghua has inherited the chief's legacy. With his God Seal spell, few opponents are a match for him. We're flattered. Ninghua still has a long way to go." Chief Ning smiled and replied, Although he was quite satisfied with the result, he meant what he said. From what he could see, Ninghua indeed had a long way to go. He only started just now. He needed to reach the peak of the Runhuang Plain and go through the 3 levels of the divine tribulation. As the head of the Donghua domain, Chief Ning had a much broader horizon and extremely high hopes for Ninghua. Ninghua has attained the acme of perfection when it comes to the God Seal spell. Even his eyes are enough to seal his opponent. Few people in the Donghua domain can fight against him now. He will probably overshadow old guys like us in no time. The overlord of the Jiang clan ancient royal family, from the Luotian continent, also praised with a smile. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2031, Divine Melody Taihua. Chapter 2031, Divine Melody Taihua. The crowd had high praises for Ninghua. Over where the members of Desolate God Palace were, Desolation lowered his head and picked up a cup of wine. He drained it in one gulp. He raised his head and glanced over at where Ninghua was among the members of Donghua Academy. A faint battle intent emanated from his gaze. Seemingly sensing something, Ninghua also turned his head around and looked towards Desolation. They locked gazes. A formless current actually formed in between them. The surrounding people seemed to all sense something. Their gazes shifted toward them. When the cultivators of Desolate God Palace entered Donghua Academy, Desolation had wanted to challenge Ninghua. However, Ninghua was not around. Now that such an opportunity had arisen, Desolation would certainly not let it slip past him. However, Desolation was not anxious. He would wait until everyone had battled before challenging Ninghua. He wanted to see how powerful this monstrous figure, who was renowned as the top figure in the Donghua domain, was. Within Donghua Palace, the giant figures had also detected something. They looked down below, and they revealed faint smiles. It appeared as though there would be very exciting battles at the peak. Aside from Desolation and Ninghua, there were also many other incredible figures. The others would certainly use this opportunity to test each other out. At that moment, another silhouette stepped forward and appeared on the law battle platform. This Renhuang had an otherworldly aura and appeared suave. He is a cultivator from String Palace from the Donghua heavens. Someone commented when they recognized this Renhuang in his 30s. String Palace was a top force of the Donghua heavens. Almost all of the Renhuangs of leading forces in the Donghua heavens attended the Donghua banquet. Also among the 9 heavens, the Donghua heavens had the most Renhuangs. Hence, up until now, all those who had walked up to the law battle platform were all cultivators from the Donghua heavens. The Renhuang from String Palace raised his head and looked up into the sky. His gaze landed on a person. Many people immediately turned to see who he was looking at. It was the absolute beauty, with a mesmerizing appearance, Goddess Taihua. When they saw a cultivator from String Palace walk out, many people speculated that Goddess Taihua would be chosen for this law battle. The Renhuang said, "I am from String Palace and am somewhat proficient in rhythmic sorcery. I heard that Taihua Skylord, as well as Goddess Taihua, would be coming. I have long admired the two of you. I wonder whether I will have the good fortune of hearing the divine melody Taihua today." Many people were anticipating this. Among the top 10 most famous songs in the world, one of them was called Taihua. Taihua Mountain, as well as Taihua Skylord, were named after this song. Their surnames were not Taihua, but they were called this because they cultivated the divine melody Taihua. Countless gazes landed on Goddess Taihua. She slowly got up and then stepped forward. As they gazed at her absolutely stunning appearance, many people felt their hearts stir. Some people have been blessed since their birth. Not only had she been blessed with extraordinary cultivation talent, but she was also bestowed with astonishing beauty. Some people were destined to be favored by the heavens. An example of such a person was Ninghua. He was also born above the others, and was a proud son of heaven. As Goddess Taihua walked forward, a halo of light circled around her. It was mesmerizing and calming. Her steps were like the music of deities. The sounds that they made caused the hearts of many to beat in tune. This sensation was miraculous. It was not a hallucination. Goddess Taihua truly gave everyone such a feeling. It was just like how a swordsman would give off a sharp vibe, while a person who cultivated the great path of frost would cause people to feel chilly. Goddess Taihua made people feel as though they were listening to beautiful music. It was very relaxing. Looking at her was like enjoying a symphony. Incredible. The rhythm of the great path has already merged with her body completely. She can utilize it naturally. It is as though her body is a musical score of the great path, Li Changxing praised. The people around him also felt the same. They agreed with his praise. Her cultivation was astonishing. Futian also sensed this. He also cultivated a divine melody, but he had yet to reach such a level. It was apparent that the other party had greater attainment in rhythmic sorcery than him. After all, he had cultivated music as a means to support his cultivation. However, it was different for Goddess Taihua. She nourished her great path with music, and had reached the stage where her body and will were one with her rhythmic sorcery. Futian could not help but feel a sense of anticipation. How powerful was Goddess Taihua's music? Goddess Taihua stepped onto the law battle platform and stood before the cultivator from String Palace. The other party said, "Goddess, please go easy on me." "Let's begin," Goddess Taihua replied as she nodded her head. The other cultivator sat down cross-legged. An ancient guqin appeared before his body. Instantly, his rhythmic sorcery became divine light of the great path that radiated outwards. Very quickly, musical notes enveloped this part of the sky. The rhythm of the great path filled the air. Goddess Taihua stood there quietly. On her body, formless rhythmic sorcery expanded outwards like ripples. A guqin of the great path appeared before her. The great path around her served as her strings. Each string was formed from the great path of rhythmic sorcery. That was not all. There seemed to be a miraculous resonance around them. It was as though this part of the sky was covered by the will of her great path, forming a domain. The entire space was within her domain of rhythmic sorcery. Countless guqin strings appeared around them. Goddess Taihua extended her delicate hands. Her palms were fair. Her fingers were slender and elegant. Her fingers curved and plucked at the strings of the guqin. A string of musical notes leaped out. In an instant, a sound wave actually swept out, causing the guqin strings in the domain of the great path to resonate. She played loudly and powerfully. It was hard to imagine that such a delicate and beautiful figure could play such powerful notes with simple plucks of the guqin strings. The other party's recital was nearly cut off. The Renhuang felt his body become extremely heavy. Every pluck of his strings seemed so difficult. Under the effects of the powerful musical notes, his own playing was directly suppressed. Goddess Taihua did not stop. Her fingers danced on top of the guqin. Immediately, countless musical notes of the great path leaped out. Each note contained unparalleled power. This was a beautiful melody that was filled with power. It was weighty and powerful. The surrounding space felt unbearably heavy. It pressed down on the figure of the other cultivator. The Renhuang even felt a frightening pressure acting on his spiritual soul. At that moment he seemed to see an illusion. It was as though he was standing alone on the ground, and divine mountains were descending from the heavens. Standing alone in the vast world, he appeared exceptionally minuscule. His great path was being suppressed. His flesh and spiritual soul were also suppressed. It did not take long for him to be unable to continue playing. His strings had snapped. He raised his head and looked up at her guqin strings of the great path. Although they appeared formless, he felt as though he could see them clearly. The strings were everywhere, like mountains before him. Right then the sensation suddenly disappeared. The domain of the great path dissipated. Everything appeared to be a dream. Before him, a peerless beauty was floating in the sky. She stood there silently, stunning to behold. "Many thanks, goddess," said the Renhuang as he bowed slightly. She had enabled him to experience the divine melody Taihua. He was naturally grateful. Otherwise, with Goddess Taihua's ability, any tune she played could similarly crush him. Yet, just now, he could truly feel the majestic power contained within the divine melody Taihua. When faced with such might and incredible power, even upper-level Renhuangs would feel small. Goddess Taihua nodded her head slightly. She then walked down from the law battle platform and returned to her seat. Yi Futian glanced at her. Although he had not experienced the divine melody Taihua up close, he could still sense its majestic power from outside of the law battle platform. It was powerful and rich. It could suppress the great path. He did know which was more powerful, this or Song of the Lost Divine. Marvelous, praised Chief Ning from Donghua Palace. Today the Donghua banquet is full of surprises. Even us old fellows will still be astonished at such a divine melody. It seems that she has completely inherited the way of Taihua Skylord. Taihua Skylord's daughter is a peerless proud daughter of heaven. Even among the men, few can compare to her. She will certainly become a prominent figure at the peak. She reminds me of the vice chief, Lingxiao Palace Lord said with a smile. His words caused an idea to surface in the minds of many people. What was he implying? However, Ninghua and Goddess Taihua were indeed a match. They were both top figures of their generation. You are all too generous with your praises. The juniors of Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow are not inferior to her, said Taihua Skylord casually with a smile. Down below, over where the members of Donghua Academy were, Ninghua raised his cup and said to Goddess Taihua, I never imagined that I would have the good fortune of hearing the divine melody Taihua today. It is deserving of being one of the top 10 most famous songs in the world. Goddess, let me offer a toast to you. Many people revealed strange expressions. Ninghua was incredibly proud. This was the first time he had greeted another person first. Vice Chief, you praise me too highly, Goddess Taihua replied as she raised her cup. The two of them drank together from where they stood. Upon seeing this scene, many members of the Donghua Palace revealed knowing smiles. They seemed somewhat intrigued. If Ninghua and Goddess Taihua could become an item, they would definitely become the most perfect couple among this generation in the Donghua domain. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2032, Prominent Figures. Chapter 2032. Prominent figures. After Goddess Taihua stepped down, other people continued to ascend onto the law battle platform, battling against the Renhuangs from the top forces. Very soon, the cultivators from various forces had received challenges from Renhuangs in the Nine Heavens. Even Jiang Yueli, who had an 8th-tier flawless great path, also accepted a challenge. A powerful Renhuang at the peak of his cultivation had challenged her. He wanted to see how powerful a Renhuang with a flawless great path was. There was little suspense in this battle. The Renhuang with peak cultivation lost to Jiang Yueli. This battle made people realize that Jiang Yueli was unbeatable, unless she was going against giant-level figures. With her 8th-tier Renhuang playing cultivation, she was just a step away from being considered a giant-level figure herself. The goddesses of Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow also received challenges. However, they too defeated their opponents in a spectacular fashion. There was no suspense to their battles. Even though the challengers were all very powerful, those invited were all prominent figures of the top forces. They were all monstrous figures with extraordinary abilities at the Renhuang plane. Wanting to defeat them would naturally not be easy. Time passed. The law battles continued without end. Many people had already accepted multiple challenges. After all, there were too many challenges, but the number of Renhuangs from the top forces was limited. Hence, there were bound to be repeated challenges. However, today, the chief had personally given the order for the cultivators to join in the battles. The cultivators obliged to his orders very enthusiastically, cooperating and participating in the law battles. At that moment, on the law battle platform, another fierce battle was taking place. A middle-level Renhuang had walked out and challenged a Renhuang from Desolate God Palace. The abilities of the challenger were actually on par with his opponent. His combat ability was astonishingly powerful. Down below, countless people raised their heads and watched the ferocious battle on the law battle platform. Destructive black currents of the great path became frightening bolts of lightning. It was as though the space was experiencing doomsday. Destructive currents rampaged, attempting to destroy the opponent. Who is this person? He is so powerful, Someone asked in astonishment as they watched the challenger. Even against such a great path of destruction, he does not seem to be at a disadvantage. Be it in terms of defense or attack power, he is terrifyingly powerful in both aspects. He is Run Huangchen, said someone else. Run Huangchen has cultivated for many years in the Donghua heavens. He has always kept a low profile. However, every battle that he was involved in was legendary. As expected, he will suppress the Run Huang from Desolate God Palace this time as well. With his fingers, he draws out rivers of swords, and his punches are like mountains. It is indeed frightening for him to have such cultivation. Someone to the side commented in awe as their gazes were fixed on the battle above. Every attack of Ren Huangchen appeared simple, but exploded with astonishing might. As expected, there are multitudes of cultivators from the Donghua heavens. If Ren Huangchen wins this law battle, he will be the fourth to achieve victory, another person stated. As time passed, several battles had erupted. Although the chances of victory for the challengers were slim, 3 Renhuangs had managed to emerge victoriously. Bang! At that moment a loud collision was heard. Several people felt their hearts leap. Then, they saw that the Run Huang from Desolate God Palace was sent flying outward. Fresh blood had dyed his robes red. On the other hand, Run Huangchen remained standing there, bearing the air of a grandmaster. He had won. Many people below clenched their fists. Because the chances of victory were slim, many people hoped that some extraordinary figures would appear to take down these cultivators from the superpowers. It was precisely because it was difficult that they looked forward to it. Hence, each battle that ended with such a victory stirred the hearts of the people. Not bad. From Donghua Palace, laughter could be heard. Chief Ning looked at the Run Huang on the law battle platform and said, "From the discussion below, this Run Huangchen appears to be an extraordinary Run Huang from the Donghua heavens. It's incredible for him to be able to defeat such a powerful opponent. It is indeed incredible. The abilities of the Run Huang from Desolate God Palace are impressive. His combat ability is already considered very powerful. There was no element of luck in Run Huangchen's victory." Someone replied with a smile. "He is the fourth. It is indeed not easy for them to have claimed 4 victories. What about all of you? Have any one of them caught your eye?" Chief Ning asked with a smile. The Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace said, "The Run Huang from the Donghua heavens. If he is willing to join my Lingxiao Palace to cultivate, I will personally instruct him." Chief Ning answered as he nodded his head. He looked to the law battle platform and said, "Did you hear that? The Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace is willing to personally pass on his teachings to you. Are you interested in joining Lingxiao Palace to cultivate?" Ren Huangchen raised his head and looked at Chief Ning from where he was. He replied, "I have come to participate in these law battles to join the domain chief's manor." "Oh," Chief Ning uttered as he glanced at the Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace who was beside him. The other party smiled indifferently and said, "It seems that he is not fated to cross paths with Lingxiao Palace." Since this Run Huang wants to enter domain chief's manor to cultivate, then only the chief could grant him his wish. Chief Ning nodded in agreement. Since the other party was willing, he had no objections. He said, "All right, after this, you will join domain chief's manor to cultivate." "Many thanks, chief," Ren Huangchen answered with a slight bow. With his abilities, he could have joined a top force before this. However, he had always been comprehending the Great Path. Now he felt as though his cultivation had reached a bottleneck. Hence, he wanted to join domain chief's manor. There, he could come in contact with the top figures of the Run Huang Plain. "No need to thank me. It is just that you have missed an opportunity to join Lingxiao Palace. You'd better not regret it in the future," Chief said with a smile. "All right, all of you can stand down first." "Yes, sir," Run Huangchen responded as he stepped down with a nod. The law battles continued. The major figures of Donghua Palace continued chatting casually. Chief Ning said, "Members of our top forces have already lost 4 law battles. It seems that there are many incredible figures this time around. Yet they still seem to be lacking something. The people below are the backbones of the various forces. The Renhuangs of Donghua Academy, Desolate God Palace, and the other forces are prominent figures outside. Does the chief feel that it is not enough even if the challengers manage to defeat them? The sword goddess asked. As Chief Ning sat in his high seat, he smiled and answered, "It is naturally not bad if the challengers can defeat them. However, there are countless cultivators in the Donghua domain. The renhuangs here have come from all corners of the world. I hope that even more monstrous renhuangs with extraordinary combat ability will appear and defeat our top force's prominent figures. If the challengers can put up a fight against Sword Goddess' 3 personal disciples, Kong Xiao from Donghua Academy, Ling He from Ling Xiao Palace, or Yi Liunian from the Wangshan Watchtower, only then can the prosperity of martial arts in the Donghua domain be displayed." When they heard this, everyone smiled. Sword Goddess pondered this for a moment. She then replied, "It is easier said than done." Chief Ning gave no further comment as he looked down at the 9 heavens below. In a loud voice he declared, "Everyone, you have also heard what I said. This Donghua banquet is held so that everyone can witness the prominent figures of the Donghua domain. If there are any extraordinary people out there, do not hide or shy away. If the situation that I mentioned occurs, Domain Chief's manor will reward the person handsomely." Down below, countless people who had come to spectate the proceedings were excited. Would such a figure emerge? The difficulty was too high. Defeating a prominent figure of these top forces was easier said than done. These people were all peak existences of their planes. At that moment, in the 5th heaven of the 9 heavens, a Renhuang walked out. He was clearly a 5th-tier Renhuang. The battle on the law battle platform had not ended, yet he had already walked out beforehand and was floating toward the law battle platform. It was him. Many people narrowed their eyes. Clearly, some people recognized the Renhuang that had emerged. Very soon, voices came from below as many people started talking about the figure who had appeared. "Who is he?" someone asked curiously. "He is a legendary figure that once turned down joining Donghua Academy," someone explained as they stared at the silhouette. This person had taken the Donghua heavens by storm back in the day. He would later disappear, with rumors claiming that he had gone on a training journey. They never imagined that he would appear during the Donghua banquet. So that person was him. Several members of the Donghua heavens responded when they heard the voice explain this. Decades ago, they had also heard similar stories. Even among Donghua Academy's cultivators, many people glanced over at the Renhuang, who had appeared below. "He was actually among the crowd," someone said. The speaker clearly recognized this person too. At that moment, the battle ended on the 5th heaven's law battle platform. After both parties stepped down, this Renhuang immediately walked onto the law battle platform. Down below, there was a commotion among Domain Chief's manor. The sound of discussion grew louder. At the same time, the Renhuang who appeared on the law battle platform raised his head and looked up. His gaze landed where the members of the Wangshan Watchtower were. He proclaimed, "I challenge Yi Liunian." Ever since Yi Futian completely suppressed Yin Dongyang, no one else had challenged him. No one wanted to embarrass themselves. They all knew their own strength. It was almost impossible for them to defeat Yi Futian. Yet, right then, a person had emerged and directly challenged Sword Emperor Liunian, the person who had become famous after a single battle in Donghua Academy. For a moment, there were bursts of cries from down below. Many people seemed very excited. This made Yi Futian feel somewhat strange. With his current battle record, did the people below believe that this Renhuang could pose a threat to him? If not, they would not be so excited. Clearly, the crowd believed that this would be an intense battle. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2033, Chunyi. Chapter 2033. Chunyi. Who was this person? There were still many uninformed people who were asking around. In the 9 heavens, many Renhuangs were whispering to each other. They were discussing the person who had appeared. Among those from the Donghua heavens, a Renhuang who could cause such a commotion was definitely an outstanding figure. Only figures such as Ninghua and Goddess Taihua had such influence. If so, who was this Renhuang? He was actually not part of any of the top forces. His name is Chunyi, somebody stated. This caused many people to reveal strange expressions. This name was too common. He only had a single character for one after his surname. It was extremely simple. What's so special about him? Asked someone else. 20 years ago, this person was already renowned in the Donghua heavens. Back in the day, he defeated many prominent figures and suffered no losses in the law battles he fought in. Rumor has it that Donghua Academy had personally extended him an invitation to join them. Such treatment from them is exceedingly rare. It has only occurred several times in the history of Donghua Academy. However, Chen Yi turned down their invitation. Someone said as they watched the silhouette on the law battle platform above. Hence back then, many disciples from Donghua Academy were unsatisfied with his arrogant behavior. Several renhuangs sought him out to teach him a lesson. In the end, he delivered them a crushing defeat single-handedly. Later on, Donghua Academy mobilized extremely powerful renhuangs, and they still lost to him. There were even rumors that Domain Chief's manor also wanted to recruit him. However, Chen Yi had disappeared by then. He slowly faded from the consciousness of the members of the Donghua heavens. That is why many people gradually forgot that such a figure once existed. Yet now he has appeared again in this Donghua banquet. It was Chen Yi. Over where the members of Donghua Academy were, they were all staring at the figure below. Many of them recognized this person. This person had caused Donghua Academy to suffer a humiliating defeat. Ninghua lowered his head and glanced at the silhouette on the law battle platform. His gaze was cold and indifferent. He had also heard of this name. Back in the day, due to his station, he had not fought Chen Yi. Back then, Chen Yi was only a third-tier renhuang, whereas he was already a middle-level renhuang at the peak. His cultivation is already at the 5th tier. A disciple from the academy commented. High above in Donghua Palace, Emperor Shi was curious as he asked, "Is this person famous? I recall having heard of him 20 years ago. Back then, he was indeed well known in the Donghua heavens." Chief Ning said as he looked at the person below. As expected, the Donghua banquet is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons that need a little motivation for them to show themselves. It seems that an even more intense battle is about to begin. Chief has such a high opinion about this person. Emperor Shi asked. Ling He Yin Dongyang, as well as the prominent figures of Donghua Academy, are all of the same plane as this person. However, without any exception, they have all suffered defeat at the hands of Yi Liuonian. Could it be that this person is even more outstanding than all the previous ones? The various giant figures were also curious. After all, they were not from the Donghua heavens, and would not be too concerned about a junior from there. If this person had been from their own continents, they might have known more about him. Ling He is inferior to him, Ling Xiao Palace Lord stated. According to my sources, a disciple of the academy, who was even more outstanding than Ling, he had lost to this person back then. This person has disappeared for many years. For him to return and participate in the Donghua banquet this time, it might be that he has reached a bottleneck in his cultivation journey and wants to challenge himself again. It might also be that he wants to join Domain Chief's manor. Let us see. Many people are cheering for this person. I am looking forward to this fight, said Chief Ning with a smile. The others nodded in agreement. Chen Yi is such a famous prominent figure of the Donghua heavens. However, that being said, for him, a 5th-tier renhuang, to challenge a 4th-tier Yi Liuonian, it is giving the crowd such anticipation, Thunder-punishing Skylord said with a smile. From a different perspective, this also proves where Yi Liuonian currently stands in the hearts of the cultivators here today. Many people who heard him say this nodded their heads slightly. Sword Goddess also said, "It is indeed so." After such a prominent figure like Chen Yi emerged, everyone hoped that he would battle against Yi Futian. From this, it could be seen that the crowd unknowingly viewed Yi Futian as an unbeatable figure. At least in a situation where Yi Futian's cultivation was similar to that of his opponent, the crowd believed that no one could stand against him. Therefore, when Chen Yi walked out, this caught the attention of everyone. Countless people were waiting for their battle. It has only been a few days since he entered the Donghua heavens, yet he has gained such fame because of a battle against the academy. It is a rare sight. The crowd was busy discussing. At that moment, Yi Futian had already entered the law battle platform and now stood before Qin Yi. Yi Futian also heard some of the discussion below. This Ren Huang, who had emerged from the fifth heaven, appeared to be famous. The crowd was eagerly waiting for him to battle against Yi Futian. It was apparent that this person was particular. Yi Futian could not help but size up his opponent. Qin Yi's appearance was not outstanding. However, he gave off a very comfortable vibe. He had a faint smile on his face and seemed casual and unrestrained. Yi Futian heard the people down below discussing that this person had turned down the invitation of Donghua Academy and had not joined them to cultivate. I am Qin Yi. Recently, I have heard of Ren Huang Yi constantly in the Donghua heavens. Hence, I have intentionally come to receive a few pointers. Qin Yi greeted Yi Futian with a smile as he saluted with his fists. I am Yi Liunian. Yi Futian replied as he did the same. They chatted casually. They both appeared very calm. Yi Futian felt that Qin Yi was looking at him with a strange gaze. It seemed as though Qin Yi was very interested in him. Yi Futian could not decipher the meaning behind the gaze. Let us begin, said Qin Yi. Let's, Yi Futian replied. However, he saw Qin Yi standing there quietly. It was as though he had no intention of attacking. Yi Futian also stood there, seemingly waiting for his opponent to attack first. Qin Yi suddenly smiled at Yi Futian. It was a meaningful smile. Just as Yi Futian was puzzled for a split second, a blinding light suddenly radiated outwards. The powerful light instantly turned the space into a world of absolute light. Yi Futian found it difficult to keep his eyes open. There was extremely bright light before his eyes. For a moment he was in a daze. Sensing an extremely intense threat, Yi Futian's figure immediately retreated backward. The will of the great path of space emanated outwards, warping space. Buzz! A high-pitched hum of a sword could be heard. Yi Futian instantly appeared far away. However, the sword seemed to penetrate the space directly and descend upon him. Its speed was actually even faster than his teleportation. A soft swooshing sound could be heard. Yi Futian appeared high in the sky. He lowered his head and glanced down below. A section of his white robe had been sliced off. A sword light swept across before him. Qin Yi did not continue his attack. He stood unmoving on his spot quietly. Yet at that moment, dazzling divine light appeared around his body, shining out in all directions. The divine sword in his hand also radiated brilliant white light. It was blinding. A sword of light, said Yi Futian as he looked down at Qin Yi. Just now, Qin Yi could have taken advantage of Yi Futian being caught off guard, and continued to press his attack. The speed of light was unbelievably fast. Yet, Qin Yi had not done so and instead merely stood there waiting. It seemed that the sword just now was merely a reminder to Yi Futian. Light Shadow Sword Emperor Qin Yi. Down below voices cried out. Countless people gazed up at the dazzling sword. This was the prominent figure who shook the Donghua heavens 20 years ago. The person who was known as Light Shadow Sword Emperor, Qin Yi. Incredible. In Donghua Palace, thunder-punishing Skylord praised Qin Yi and said, no wonder this person was so well regarded. He has actually comprehended the way of light. He must have had a fateful encounter. The other cultivators responded as they nodded their heads in agreement. The way of light was an extremely rare ability of the Great Path. It isn't easy to comprehend. Qin Yi must be a cultivator with a flawless Great Path. It was almost impossible for him to have managed to do so without a fateful encounter. I am not too clear about this. He should have had one. Each incredible cultivator will have had their own fateful encounter, aside from their talent, Chief Ning said. Many people nodded in agreement. No wonder he previously turned down Donghua Academy, the crowd thought to themselves. However, no one said this out loud. After all, the college chief of Donghua Academy was also present. Outside of the law battle platform, Ninghua and Desolation were also excited as they looked down at the platform. Qin Yi raised his head and said to Yi Futian, Are you ready? This time, the power of the Great Path emanated around Yi Futian. A formless aura of the Great Path expanded out around him. Yi Futian was clearly taking it somewhat seriously. In their exchange just now, his opponent had not been serious. Yet, That attack made Yi Futian feel as though Chen Yi's ability was above Kong Zhao's. Chen Yi was mighty. Yi Futian replied as he nodded his head. He had a serious gaze. In front of Chen Yi's figure, a sword of light appeared. It then split into 2, then 3, and so on. A wheel of divine swords appeared before him. They were all pointed at Yi Futian. Seemingly in an instant, billions of swords of light appeared, forming a gigantic sword pattern. Each sword radiated with blinding light, making it hard for the spectators to keep their eyes open. Chen Yi extended his palm forward, and then sent out a palm strike. Instantly, the billions of divine swords shone at the same time and shot out. Blinding divine light covered this part of the sky. The swords seemed to merge into the light. Each beam of light was a murderous sword. They flooded this part of the sky. It seemed as though Yi Futian was about to be buried by the light. The crowd saw Yi Futian being consumed by the sword light in an instant. They could not see his silhouette. The blinding light consumed his figure completely almost immediately. Buzz! The will of the Great Path emanated from Yi Futian's body. A domain of the Great Path appeared around him. Stars circled him, and countless stone tablets appeared before him. Each stone tablet released divine light. Runes appeared to be carved on them. A string of runes lined up and appeared in front of Yi Futian, sealing off the space. This scene caused Yi Futian's silhouette to once again appear in the crowd's view. The stone tablets seemed to gather together to form a gigantic divine tablet that spread across the sky. Divine light of the Great Path shot out from it and collided with the sword light charging towards him. This caused a majestic scene to be displayed before the crowd. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2034. The Strongest Opponent. Chapter 2034. The strongest opponent. The law battle platform became an independent space. 2 silhouettes floated in the sky, facing each other. The gigantic divine tablet released the brilliant divine light of the Great Path. With Yi Futian's figure as its center, a galaxy of the Great Path appeared. The divine tablet seemed to be from the ancient past, suppressing everything in this space. The light that shot out from the blinding sword of light and the divine tablet collided. Each beam of light was like a sword. Billions of pillars of light were like billions of divine swords. In the sky above, they formed an astonishing river of swords. Seeing that the divine tablet was blocking them, Chen Yi pointed a finger ahead. A beam of light immediately slashed across the space and landed on the divine tablet. The beam of light lit up on the divine tablet from top to bottom. A mark of light appeared on the gigantic stone tablet. Split, Chen Yi uttered. As he said this, the extremely dazzling stone tablet actually split in 2 along the mark of light. The next moment, Chen Yi's figure disappeared, becoming a beam of light. Buzz! The beam of light disappeared. The crowd saw Yi Futian's figure leave behind an afterimage. As the light descended from above, the afterimage disappeared, and the 2 of them appeared high above in the sky elsewhere. So fast! Exclaimed the crowd. The crowd tried to follow their movements, but soon discovered that they could not catch sight of their figures at all. Both of them were too fast. If they weren't on the law battle platform, they might have traversed 1,000 miles in an instant. However, the difference between the 2 of them was that Yi Futian was teleporting, while Chen Yi was moving at the speed of light. Both of them possessed extreme speed. This was what caused the other cultivators to be unable to follow their movements. At that moment, both of their silhouettes suddenly came to a stop. They stood across the space, staring at each other. Such a fast sword, Chief Ning said in Donghua Palace. In this short interval, the 2 of them had exchanged blows countless times. The other cultivators could not see it clearly, but the giant figures above in Donghua Palace naturally saw what had happened. It is not just his sword but also his speed. This is the way of light, Emperor, she said. Although there is no absolute strength or weakness for ways of the Great Path, and it still depends on the user, in reality, some powers of the Great Path will definitely be more powerful than others once mastered. Those who cultivated up to their plane understood. There was no such thing as a strong or weak Great Path. This fact was not always true under all circumstances. In reality, if the same person cultivated different ways, there would be a difference in terms of strength between the ways he mastered. If not, every Renhuang would have no qualm choosing between the way of light and the other of the 5 great paths. Everyone would choose the former. This time, this fellow has truly met his match, Thunder Punishing Skylord said with a laugh. Chunyi was truly a threat to Yi Futian. His ability was super powerful, and he had been undefeated in law battles before this. Yi Futian, who had defeated countless prominent figures and had yet to suffer a loss, finally encountered an extremely powerful opponent. The people down below were very excited. Although many of them could not understand what they were seeing, they still felt that this battle seemed interesting. The two of them stood facing each other in the space on the law battle platform. Chun-Yi was like a child of light as he was bathed in light. Each beam of light that shot out contained frightening power. He looked at Yi Futian and said, "I never imagined that Renhuang Yi would be so proficient in the great path of space. If we continue fighting like this, who knows when we will be able to determine a victor?" Yi Futian lowered his head and looked at Chun-Yi. He answered, "It won't take long." Yi Futian had barely uttered this when Chun-Yi suddenly frowned. Then he sensed a strange change in the surroundings. With his figure as the center, there seemed to be a bizarre change to this part of the space. A domain of the Great Path formed, and countless currents flowed within the space. A cold moon appeared above where Yi Futian stood, and stars circled him. An extremely cold aura flowed over the land, seemingly freezing it solid. Chun-Yi sensed the cold aura around him. He looked at Yi Futian and muttered, "The power of Yin." Just as he said this, he saw Yi Futian shoot an eye sorcery over. The eye sorcery pierced straight towards Chun-Yi's eyes, attempting to invade his mind and will. However, at that moment, intense light radiated from Chun-Yi's pupils. Yi Futian was blocked out from invading. Yi Futian revealed a strange look. This was the first time his eye sorcery had failed. His opponent's eyes could become eyes of light and defend against Yi Futian's eye sorcery invasion. Moonlight shone down. It contained the power of Yin. The light of the cold moon caused the space to become extremely cold. It also contained a terrifying destructive power, as it froze over the domain of the Great Path. However, Chun-Yi still stood there quietly, seemingly unperturbed by the cold. Behind him, in the sky above, a sword floated in the air. It was his sword of light. Even more blinding light shot out, and formed an absolute domain of the Great Path around Chun-Yi. When the moonlight shone down and came in contact with the domain of light, it could not pierce through. It was unable to break through the defense of Chun-Yi's Great Path. Buzz! Chun-Yi's figure disappeared once again, and became a beam of light that shot towards Yi Futian. As his figure moved, with his figure as the center, countless beams of divine light that contained terrifying murderous power shot out. For other Renhuangs, it would be difficult for them to survive being near him. "I am being affected," Chun-Yi thought to himself as he felt his speed of light being affected by the power of Yi Futian's domain of the Great Path. However, even so, he was still extremely fast. The distance between the two of them was insignificant to him. He could ignore it entirely. Buzz! A sword of light swept across the space and stabbed towards Yi Futian's body. There was no technique involved. Extreme speed was absolute power. If it were any other person, when the light landed, Chun-Yi's opponent would already be dead. They would not have the ability to block his attack at all. When the sword of light charged over towards him, an astonishing current of the Great Path suddenly surged around Yi Futian's body. 2 layers were formed around him, one hot and one cold. It made everyone feel very uncomfortable. Yi Futian's figure turned ethereal. Countless afterimages appeared. He used the Great Path of space to teleport. However, the speed of his opponent's sword of light seemed to surpass space. Chun-Yi followed every traversal Yi Futian made through space, chasing behind him closely. In the battlefield, the crowd saw endless afterimages that were dragged out, as well as an ever-advancing light. What is he doing? Some people in Donghua Palace discovered that something was strange. Many people below also noticed it. 2 completely different types of currents had appeared around Yi Futian's body. As he moved, The two currents crisscrossed and circled one another. Chen Yi also noticed this. It was not just that. Countless destructive lightning gradually descended around his body. The two terrifying powers hanging over Yi Futian's body slowly coalesced into a pattern of the Great Path. Soon, an astonishing destructive power spread out above Yi Futian. In the sky above, the Great Path's endless power coalesced, and an awe-inspiring pattern of the Great Path appeared. This gigantic pattern was hot and cold, both yin and yang. It became yin-yang fish. Fire and ice, some people thought to themselves. Yin and yang, others mumbled. The scene was too terrifying. A gigantic yin-yang diagram appeared and consumed the Great Path's power around them, turning the area into a true vacuum. The flames seemed to be the divine fire of Wudong. On the other hand, the cold aura seems to be the power of Yin. Chief Ning muttered in Donghua Palace. He could sense the two powers. These two powers intertwined and formed a destructive yin-yang diagram. Two powers descended from the yin-yang diagram at the same time. It was like an endless catastrophe of the Great Path. They blocked out the sun and the sky. It was as though everything within this domain of the Great Path was about to be destroyed by the yin-yang diagram. Screech. An ear-piercing sound could be heard. The light of catastrophe descended from the yin-yang diagram, collided with the light that radiated from Chen Yi's body. This time, it actually suppressed the way of light on Chen Yi's body and constantly compressed his domain of the Great Path. The crowd was awestruck. Yi Futian was too powerful. He had not displayed such ability during his previous battle with Kong Xiao. He was only forced to demonstrate it once Chen Yi appeared. How powerful exactly was he? He seemed to be limitless, becoming even more powerful when encountering powerful adversaries. This should be his strongest trump card, many people thought to themselves. With the combination of his sword and light, Chen Yi had forced Yi Futian to reveal his full strength. Yi Futian looked down below. His will shifted, and countless destructive divine light plummeted from the yin-yang diagram, slaughtering toward Chen Yi. Facing such power, Chen Yi was finally suppressed. He lifted his head and looked at Yi Futian. His eyes did not reveal disappointment. He seemed to be even more excited. He didn't even seem surprised. His divine wheel of the Great Path resonated with his body. Endless divine light gathered on his figure. Chen Yi moved once again. With his power of light, he directly penetrated the yin-yang light of catastrophe descending upon him. He charged straight towards Yi Futian. A high-pitched swoosh sound could be heard. Light of catastrophe kept descending, landing on the beam of light. However, Yi Futian's opponent continued advancing, showing no signs of retreating. Buzz. Yi Futian's figure also moved. The extremely frightening yin-yang diagram also moved with his figure. Countless yin-yang light of catastrophe protected him as they descended towards Chen Yi. The crowd lifted their heads and saw their two lights collide with each other. An extremely intense blinding light shot out, becoming a light shroud that swept over the surrounding region. The area in the law battle platform shook violently. The blinding divine light dissipated, and the law battle platform returned to normal. Chen Yi stood there quietly. His clothes were in tatters, yet he still stood there straight and tall as he looked up at Yi Futian. Yi Futian also stood there quietly, just looking at his opponent. This Chen Yi was the most powerful figure that Yi Futian had met among the same generation. Incredible. Even my power of light cannot touch you, Chen Yi praised. He continued. It seems that among those of the same generation, no one in the Donghua domain can do so. His words contained immense self-confidence. It was as though others could not do what he could not. However, this self-confidence that was borderline arrogance was acknowledged by many people. Even a figure as powerful as Chen Yi could not pose a threat to Yi Futian. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2035, Pinnacle Showdown. Chapter 2035, Pinnacle Showdown. Yi Futian looked at Chen Yi and said, "It is the same for you. Not many among our generation can defeat you. Do you still wish to fight?" "That won't be necessary," Chen Yi replied. The light of the catastrophe that descended from the yin-yang diagram was also merged with the power of swordsmanship. Each light of catastrophe contained frightening murderous power. With such power protecting Yi Futian, it would be difficult for Chun Yi even to touch him. Yi Futian nodded his head. The battle came to an end. Spectacular. In Donghua Palace, Chief Ning clapped and asked, "What do all of you think about this battle?" The college chief of Donghua Academy had an otherworldly temperament. He looked down below and asked Chin Yi, "Back then, Donghua Academy invited you to join the academy to cultivate, but you turned us down. Now, would you be willing to join us?" Although Chen Yi did not win against Yi Futian, the crowd acknowledged his ability. The top figures especially knew how powerful Chen Yi was. Hence, Donghua Academy once again extended him an invitation. This time, the college chief personally made the request. "Many thanks, senior. However, I have grown used to being left to my own devices. I hope senior will understand," Chen Yi said as he raised his head and smiled. Once again, he turned down Donghua Academy. The cultivators of Donghua Academy looked over at him. Chen Yi truly had character. Even though the college chief favored him, he remained unmoved and turned them down once again. "With your cultivation and ability, I believe that no one here will turn you down if you choose to join them. Could it be that you have already made a choice?" Chief Ning also spoke up. The members of the various forces did not say anything. They clearly agreed with what Chief Ning said. With Chen Yi's ability, if he were willing to join any one of their forces, no one would reject such an outstanding Renhuang. "Could it be that you wish to join Domain Chief's manor?" Lingxiao Palace Lord smiled and said, "Chief will naturally not reject you." Chen Yi could choose any force that he wanted to join. "This time, I came to participate in the Donghua banquet to witness the prominent figures of the Donghua domain. Seeing that Renhuang Yi was here, I had the sudden urge to seek pointers from him. I have no interest in joining any force. I hope Chief will understand." Chen Yi continued to reject their offers. Although the members in the Donghua Palace were somewhat surprised, they were all giant-level figures. They had experienced many things, and would not take such a small thing to heart. They just felt that was such a shame. Chief Ning nodded and said, "Since you have made up your mind, we will naturally not force you. Although you lost this time, you still displayed extremely outstanding ability. Do you have any wish that I might be able to grant?" Before this, Chief Ning had said that anyone who could defeat these prominent figures would be rewarded handsomely. Although Chen Yi had lost, Chief Ning still wanted to reward him. It was clear that he held Chen Yi in high esteem. "There is nothing that I wish for," Chen Yi replied. "All right. If that is the case, both of you may step down," Chief Ning said as he nodded his head gently. Yi Futian and Chen Yi glanced at each other, and then stepped off the law battle platform, and returned to their own seats. Down below, countless people were busy discussing the battle. They felt that it was somewhat of a pity, and some of them lamented at the outcome. This was the personality of geniuses. Countless cultivators wanted to join the top force to cultivate, but could only dream of doing so. Chen Yi could choose any force that he wanted to join, and yet, he had actually turned them all down. Once Chen Yi returned to his seat, the Renhuangs of the same plane beside him also looked at him and asked, "You could choose from all the superpowers of the Donghua domain, and yet you rejected them all. Isn't that such a waste?" "I do have a choice, but others will not agree to it. So I'll leave it at that," Chen Yi replied. "Why would they not agree?" Chief Ning himself promised this, and the various forces also did not say anything against it, said the Renhuangs beside him. "I want to join Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow to cultivate," Chen Yi said in a low voice as he looked at the other party. The surrounding Renhuangs looked at him. Oh dear! They had no response to his declaration. "Brother Chen, you sure have guts," someone commented to the side with a smile. Chen Yi raised his eyebrows and gave him a knowing look. His gaze turned towards the goddesses in the sky above. The Renhuangs beside him smiled, but did not say anything. It was not that Renhuangs were lustful. It was just that the goddesses were too sultry. However, ordinary Renhuangs only dared to keep this thought to themselves. The goddesses of Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow were beyond their reach, especially Jiang Yueli, Qin Qing, and the others. Those goddesses would not even look them in the eye. Yi Futian also returned to his seat. Many people in this area looked towards him. They were also getting more and more curious about him. The ability he displayed was getting more and more astonishing each time he fought. It was as though he was truly undefeatable. On top of that, when he was in Donghua Academy, he proved the tier of his divine wheel of the Great Path. Could it be that if he were the same plane as Ning Hua, they would be equals? Ren Huangye's ability surprises everyone each time, Jiang Yueli said. Qing Qing also nodded her head in acknowledgement beside her. Ever since she first encountered Yi Futian, when he solved the mystery of the cliff face back in the Divine Ocean continent, each time she met him again, he appeared even more outstanding. It was as though he had no limits. Goddesses, you praise me too highly. Yi Futian still replied humbly. Li Changxing smiled at the side as he looked at Yi Futian. Over transmitted thoughts, he said to Yi Futian, "Younger brother Yi, this goddess of divine palace of fluttering snow seems to be particularly concerned about you." Yi Futian looked at Li Changxing and replied, "Elder brother, you are already so old, and yet you are so fond of gossip." Li Changxing smiled as he glanced at Xia Qingyuan. This fellow drew the favor of women. They were also such extraordinary women. However, this was also normal. Since time immemorial, great beauties had favored prominent figures. Yi Futian was undoubtedly such a person. Not only did he have exceptional talent, but he also had the looks to match. It is precisely because I am old that young, beautiful women do not fancy me. Hence, I have yet to find a path companion up until now. I can only admire and envy you. Li Changxing lamented playfully. Yi Futian ignored him completely. The more time he spent with Li Changxing, the more he realized that this person, who put on the airs of an expert beyond this world before others, was actually an old urchin. He loved joking around, and he was easy to get along with. He did not have the airs of someone superior at all. Down below, another person stepped onto the law battle platform and challenged the cultivators above. The law battles continued. Gradually, a group of very incredible figures appeared. Unfortunately, the battles mostly failed. It wasn't easy to achieve victory, especially when challenging such prominent figures. No one managed to defeat them. These figures at the top were all too powerful. The challengers' attempts were futile. However, some exciting law battles stirred up the crowd, causing the spectators to be very excited. In the blink of an eye, the Donghua banquet had been going on for 7 consecutive days. Within these 7 days, dozens of renhuangs had been chosen to join the various top forces to cultivate. Some of them joined Domain Chief's manor, while others joined Donghua Academy, and the rest. However, on this day, the number of people who came out gradually whittled down. There would sometimes be gaps in between law battles. The rounds of law battles had also worn out the renhuangs of the top forces. Many of them had been challenged multiple times. They also developed and showed growth during their battles. Right then, the law battle platform was empty. After a long while, no one had gone up. In Donghua Palace, Chief Ning declared, "Since no one has the desire to battle, this round of law battles will end here." The crowd nodded their heads. Not only did the people below have no objections to this, conversely, but they also became even more excited. Many people revealed looks of intense anticipation in their eyes. If this round of law battles ended, that meant a new round was about to begin. This time, there would be law battles between the cultivators of the top forces above them, the disciples of Donghua Academy, Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow, the Wangshan Watchtower, Desolate God Palace. The renhuangs of these forces would compete with one another. This was a grand occasion. Each battle would be thrilling. Rumor has it that Desolate God Palace had gone to Donghua Academy to challenge Ninghua before this. However, Ninghua was not in the academy at that time. Hence, they had missed each other. Today, both of them were here. The showdown between these two figures would be inevitable. The crowd could not wait to see how it played out. There was also Jiang Yueli and Zhong Chan. Would peak-level battles explode between the 4 prominent figures? There were far more middle-level renhuangs with flawless great paths than these 4 upper-level renhuangs. The contest between them would be even more intense. Could anyone at the same plane pose a threat to Yi Futian? It would most likely take a 6th-tier cultivator to do so. Before this, in many-law battles, almost no one could pose a threat to those prominent figures with flawless great paths. However, what would happen if these figures were to clash with one another? They would soon witness the battles between the strongest figures. These would be the highest-level battles in the Donghua domain. This was also a test to see which cultivator, among the top forces current generation, was the most outstanding. Renhuangs were already the foundations of the various forces, the core of their power. Their strength also determined the overall strength of the various forces. All of you seated here have cultivated many powerful cultivators. They are the present and future of the Donghua domain. Now, why don't we let the cultivators of the Donghua domain witness their glory? Chief Ning asked the giant-level figures. A thunderous response immediately came from below. The sound reached the 9 heavens and shook the Donghua heavens. Everyone was waiting with great anticipation. The giant-level figures of various forces also nodded their heads. They had no objections. If that is the case, let us begin. The stage is yours, Chief Ning said as he looked at the cultivators below. The atmosphere below suddenly turned solemn. From Desolate God Palace, a silhouette stood out. Desolation looked towards a figure sitting alone nearby. The figure raised his head and looked back at Desolation. For a moment, the world seemed to have descended into an instance of silence, followed by astonishing cries erupting. The first battle would already be a pinnacle showdown? The most monstrous figure in the Donghua domain, Ninghua, versus Desolate God Palace's next leader, Desolation. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2036, Invincible. Chapter 2036. Invincible. Desolation did not speak, but turned around and walked toward the battle platform. Everyone knew who he was going to challenge. In all of the Donghua domain, besides the truly powerful, there were only 4 people with a perfect great path. With Desolation being one of them, who else besides the other 3 was worthy for him to challenge? But Jiang Yueli was in the 8th realm and a woman, and Zhong Chan had achieved his name much later than him. Desolation's nature was not prone to frivolous challenges, so only Ninghua, known as the #1 genius talent in Donghua domain, was qualified to be challenged. Desolation would only challenge Ninghua, the head of the 4 most influential figures. Previously, when he went to Donghua Academy, he had sent out an invitation for a challenge. I never thought that we would be able to experience a duel between 2 excellent figures in the first battle, the clan leader of the Nanhua clan said with a smile. Even these leading figures seemed to be quite interested. Both Desolation and Ninghua would be future leading figures, destined to be on the same level as their elders in a matter of time. Therefore, such a fight was not something they could afford to ignore. In the future, these 2 people may be stronger than all those sitting here. This was not surprising at all. The older generations were there waiting to be surpassed. I thought it would take some time, and didn't expect that the next heir of the Desolate Palace would be so direct. It seems that he is eager to prove himself as the most dazzling existence in the Donghua domain. The Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace smiled and said, It's no easy task to defeat Ninghua. In my opinion, Desolation is about to lose." Chief Ning did not speak. The person who was being challenged this time was his son Ninghua, the most enchanting figure in Donghua domain. But no matter how outstanding his son was, it would be inappropriate for him to praise his own son under the circumstances. "It's fascinating. Who do you think will win?" the thunder-punishing Skylord asked with a smile. Ninghua, the sword goddess of Fluttering Snow Palace, said. Ninghua, the college chief of Donghua Academy, said as well. At Donghua Academy, Desolation engaged in fights before, but he didn't have the power to take everyone down. Although he is mighty, he is not invincible. No one had a better understanding of Ninghua's strength than him. After all, Ninghua was cultivating in Donghua Academy. Desolation once had a battle with the Xuanwu Sword Emperor, a Runhuang of the 9th realm in Donghua Academy. He had been defeated by the Xuanhuan Sword Emperor, proving that he was not invincible. But if Ninghua were to engage Xuanwu Sword Emperor, not even Xuanwu himself would be certain that he could defeat Ninghua. That was a peerless genius talent who could really make others feel that he was invincible. When Ninghua fought, he gave everyone the same feeling each time. And that was no matter who his opponent was, or how strong they were. They were all the same in front of him. Precisely because of this, he was named the #1 genius talent in the Donghua domain. His Grand Seal Great Path overpowered every opponent he had ever encountered. Ninghua, Emperor Yin also said. In Donghua Palace, it seemed that everyone's opinions were the same. They all thought that even though Desolation was outstanding, and one of the 4 great figures, he would still be unable to shake that #1 genius talent. After all, though many people called them the Great Four, Ninghua was on his own level while the other 3 were on the same level. We will only know until after the battle. At this moment, a voice sounded in the ears of everyone present with cold indifference. All the cultivators turned their eyes and saw that the speaker was the master of Desolate God Palace, a terrible existence known as Desolate God. Everyone thought without that his heir, Desolation, would be defeated. Everyone looked at Desolation God and smiled, and no one refuted him. They just kept looking at the battle platform. In the area below, Yi Futian and the others were very concerned about this battle. For example, Jiang Yueli and Zhong Chan gave great importance to this battle. These 2 were listed along with them, and in a sense, they were already at the top of the Donghua domain. Who do you think will win? Li Changxing looked at Yi Futian and asked in a low voice. I don't know Ninghua's strength very well. Yi Futian responded. Desolation's actions at Donghua Academy were very domineering. The Desolation will was frightening. Those in the same realm as him had difficulty defeating him. However, his opponent is praised as the #1 genius talent in the Donghua domain, so I can't really say who will win. Ninghua will win, Li Changxing said. Although he was laughing casually, he was very certain, and his tone was definite. It was as if he already knew the outcome of the battle. You are so sure of it? Asked Yi Futian. Watch. There shouldn't be any doubts about it. Li Changxing smiled as he looked at the battle platform. At the same time, Ninghua stepped onto the battle platform. The terrible aura of the Great Path burst out above Desolation's body, and the terrifying Great Path currents swept out and flooded the sky. In the space within the battle platform, a desolate palace appeared above the sky, spinning in the air. As the endless power gathered and poured into the palace of the desolate wheel, an incomparable light of destruction burst out from the palace and fell. The vast space of the Great Path turned into a world of doomsday. No matter how strong and proud Desolation was this time, he was facing Ninghua, who was ranked above him. He dared not underestimate him, and had immediately turned into his strongest form, ready to fight. His eyes were pitch black, and black lightning of desolation seemed to flash out from them, capable of destroying everything. At this time, Ninghua came above him and stepped forward with assurance. A dazzling divine light was released from his body, as if it was a dominant divine body. He looked down at Desolation. His eyes were terrifying to behold. Their eyes met in midair, and an incomparable power of Grand Seal Great Path was released. In an instant, infinite divine light shot out, and turned into characters of the Great Path. Each character contained terrifying power of the seal, sweeping toward Desolation's body, even invading Desolation's eyes. Bang! The Great Path's power on Desolation's body was extremely violent, and the eyes of destruction shot out to destroy the invading will of the Grand Seal Great Path. But the characters seemed inexhaustible. They continued to invade madly. Beyond that, the surrounding space was also covered by it. It's the divine method of Grand Seal Great Path, the God Seal spell. Destroy! Desolation spat out a command, and from the sky above, countless rays of divine light descended from the Desolation wheel. These lights, like black lightning, blasted on the characters, madly destroying them. Some even rushed toward Ninghua's body, like an invasion of thousands of destructive divine tribulations. But just at that moment, an extremely horrifying light screen appeared behind Ninghua, as an immense pattern appeared. The pattern was cast from the characters, a spinning sign of yin and yang, which bore some similarities to Yi Futian's abilities. But inside this pattern, there was a giant character that said seal. Not only that, but the immense pattern itself was completely composed of this one character. And each character released an extremely brilliant divine light. With a turn of Ninghua's mind, the pattern began to expand, and the circular pattern enlarged with a rhythm as it continued to grow. With every expansion, the divine wheel's light became ever more brilliant and bright, and more characters of the seal were being released from it. Ninghua's divine wheel. Many trembled in their hearts. This was the divine wheel of Great Path that had revealed 6 wheels of divine lights in the divine mirror of heavenly wheels. In just a few short moments, the divine wheel of the Great Path had expanded to cover the sky and the sun, sheltering this corner of the sky. The divine light released by the Great Path covered this part of the world, which was full of the power that sealed the Great Path, as endless characters were floating. Although these characters continued to be destroyed under the desolation wheel, they did not appear to be exhausted, as they still covered this corner of the sky. Everyone could clearly feel that the power released by the desolation wheel was beginning to wane, as if it was affected by the Grand Seal Great Path. Desolation stood there and suddenly felt powerless. At this time, whether it was the sky or his divine consciousness, they were filled with endless characters of the seal, and were transformed by the indestructible divine light of the Great Path. He felt that the Grand Seal Great Path was eroding the space he was in. It was eroding his divine wheel of Great Path. Your divine wheel is lesser than mine. How do you propose to fight me? Ninghua lowered his head to look at desolation. His tone was extremely domineering. He projected a power, as if no one could compare to him in this entire world. Desolation had no words to refute him. His divine wheel of the Great Path was not as good as Ninghua's, which meant that he would lose the claim regarding the realm of the Great Path. His defeat would mean that the other party would have absolute control over the realm of the Great Path, and it was the power to seal the Great Path. Thus, all his methods would be unquestionably sealed and weakened. The divine wheel aside, how could he not be defeated in this situation? You are the heir to the desolate god. You have extraordinary combat power. You are already someone at the peak level. In the Donghua domain, apart from the truly powerful, not many people can defeat you. Nonetheless, it doesn't mean you can challenge me. One day, when you are confident enough that you can counter my divine wheel of the Great Path, come challenge me. Ninghua put away his power of the Great Path. When everyone heard his words, they fell silent, but their hearts were greatly disturbed. The cultivators of the Donghua domain had separated Ninghua into his own level. Even though the other 3 were equally famous, they could not truly go toe-to-toe with him. Today, Ninghua's words seemed to reinforce this point. Although not many people in Donghua domain could defeat desolation, it did not mean that he was able to challenge Ninghua. Ninghua was invincible. Countless eyes followed Ninghua as he walked back. No one had thought that this battle would end this way. There were no fanciful collisions, nor any great battle. Ninghua sent out his divine wheel of the Great Path, and no one could compete with it, not even desolation. Ninghua was invincible. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2037, The Storm Demon. Chapter 2037. The Storm Demon. Although everyone had anticipated the outcome of this battle, the process was still shocking. Under the suppression of the divine wheel of the Great Path, desolation was overpowered. Such was the crushing of the divine wheel of the Great Path. And Ninghua's divine wheel of the Great Path was different from that of the others, because it also contained the power of the Grand Seal Great Path. Once the opponent's way was suppressed, it would seal it shut and restrict the opponent's ability, so that they would lose the power to strike back. Therefore, even if the fighting did not continue, both sides already knew the inevitable outcome. Desolation's divine wheel of the Great Path was weaker, after all. In this generation, who else can best the vice chief? Countless people below thought secretly. Ninghua, with God-given talent, was the epitome of this generation in the Donghua domain. No one could compare. He had an extraordinary origin, and would continue moving forward as the one, and only until he reached the top, and inherited the position, as the chief of the Donghua domain. Senior brother's estimation was spot on. There was really no doubt. Yi Futian said to Li Changsheng, who was next to him. The divine mirror of heavenly wheels does not lie. What's more, what Desolation had inherited is quite a bit less than that of the vice chief. Even if he could contend with the great divine wheel of the Grand Seal, the outcome would still be the same. Therefore, under the circumstances that the rank of his divine wheel is not on the same level, he has no hope of winning, even though he is an outstanding figure himself. But there are some people who would always stand out no matter where they are. Ning Hua undoubtedly belongs in this category. Li Changsheng spoke to Yi Futian via voice transmission and continued, "Of course, you also belong in this category. Those who are in this category are destined to sit up there in the future." He then looked up at the Donghua Palace above. "Senior brother has praised me too generously," Yi Futian chuckled. He understood what Li Changsheng meant. There were countless cultivators in the world, and there was no shortage of geniuses. Genius talents who could cast the perfect divine wheel of the great path, as well as unparalleled characters who were able to break through the realm of Upper Renhuang while remaining flawless. However, above this, there was another type of people who were above these geniuses. They were not of this world, such as Ning Hua, such as himself. Obviously, Li Changsheng's had high praises for him, and that itself was the highest of all praises. Ning Hua and Desolation returned to their respective positions. They didn't speak. It was as if they had already forgotten about the battle. But Desolation's expression was not so good. He looked sullen, and said nothing while Ning Hua acted as if nothing had happened. In the Donghua Palace, Desolation God said nothing. However, the Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace said with a laugh, "Desolation inherited the power of Desolation God, and possesses extraordinary strength." The release of the Desolation wheel was apocalyptical. It was indeed astounding. It is a pity that it was unleashed on Ning Hua, and that he was unable to exert his own strength fully. However, Desolation God needn't worry too much, because Ning Hua is already the first man under us at the Donghua heavens. In the future, he might even be more excellent than all of us, so it is completely understandable that Desolation lost. Ning Hua has been cultivated carefully by the chief. His excellence is expected. Desolation's defeat would only encourage him to endeavor in the pursuit of the great path, said Desolation God. I heard that the young Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace has considerable strength, and once underestimated Yi Lionian. Although he was later defeated, I'm sure he has learned from it so that he could have a second chance when his realm is stronger. The people in Donghua Palace revealed a strange look. It seemed that even these major figures were beginning to annoy each other. The Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace had been on the side of the chief, and Desolation God seemed unhappy about that. So he spoke rather sarcastically regarding Ling He. Yi Lionian is also extraordinary. He was no less than anyone else in front of the divine mirror of heavenly wheels, including Desolation and the others. It is not surprising that Ling He lost to him, the Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace said with a smile. Although he was deeply displeased, he did not reveal it. The conversation between the two was getting a bit sharp. Of course. Desolation God nodded slightly while looking down. He said, "Who among you dares to taste the strength of the young Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace?" Everyone's attention was on Desolation God, while the cultivators in the Donghua Palace were smiling without saying anything. They were acting as if they were waiting to watch the show. Desolation God was still as domineering as always, aggressive and cold. Desolation was defeated, but he was defeated by Ning Hua, not by anyone from Lingxiao Palace. The commentary from the Palace Lord of Lingxiao Palace was not taken kindly by Desolation God. Therefore, this was the first time a leading figure in the Donghua Palace had offered one of his own as a challenger. The performance of the cultivators above had always been seen in the eyes of the people below. There were many cultivators in the Desolation God Palace, and all of those who came this time were powerful characters, not just Desolation, but because Desolation was the heir of Desolation God, He was the one who got most of the attention. Apart from Desolation, there were other powerful cultivators in Desolation God Palace, from the Badlands continent, and in the western region of the Donghua domain. Desolation God himself had spoken. This battle must be won. Therefore, all eyes from Desolate God Palace fell on the same person. Obviously, the cultivators themselves already had a consensus on who should be the challenger. Storm Demon of Desolate God Palace. Li Chongqing looked at him and whispered, "He is very strong, and his status in the Desolate God Palace is second only to Desolation." Storm Demon. Many people recognized him. The cultivators from the top forces had some understanding of these powerful players. Many people from Lingxiao Palace changed their expression when they saw the man. They hadn't seen Storm Demon in action before, but they had heard how strong he was. He really might not be able to beat this opponent. Storm Demon was a massive, domineering figure. In the black robe he wore, he appeared even more majestic up close. He looked to be about 40 years in age, and his eyes were sharp and aggressive with a strong sense of oppression. Standing up, his size was even taller than Desolation. He glanced at Ling He, then walked toward the battle platform and said, "Come over here." His tone was full of domineering contempt. It was as if he didn't care to speak to him. Clearly, this was aimed toward Ling He. This slight did not go unnoticed by Ling He. Even though this Storm Demon was a well-known existence in Desolate God Palace, but Ling He himself was a man of the Donghua heavens, and was the young palace lord of Lingxiao Palace. How could he allow others to act so insolent toward him? Ling He stood up and followed Storm Demon. The two stepped into the arena of the battle platform, one after the other. As they entered the battle platform, Storm Demon was in front with his back facing Ling He. Then he stopped. The moment when he turned around, a storm of destruction appeared around him, and this storm rushed into the sky, as a terrible dark thundercloud appeared. Countless black lightning struck down like a catastrophe of the great path. The light of darkness enveloped the firmament, and the storm of destruction was becoming more terrifying. Every gust of the wind was like a knife that cut through everything as they rolled toward Ling He. This storm that gathered together was capable of tearing the space apart. In the dark thunderstorm of destruction, a massive black thunder battle axe appeared. Storm Demon hovered in the air and rushed into that devastating storm, holding the battle axe in his hand. Like a demon god of destruction, he looked down at Ling He below. Above Ling He's head, Lingxiao Pagoda appeared, suspended in the sky. Endless shadows of the pagoda filled and suppressed the space, with strands of golden light permeating from them. At the same time, a golden spear appeared in his hand with a radiant divine light flowing forth. Infinite shadows of the pagoda appeared, trying to suppress this corner of the sky. However, the sky on that side was full of destructive thunderstorms. The great path withered, and all signs of vitality were wiped out. The golden streamer rushed into the storm, and was shattered by the devastating storm. Terrifying dark streamer blasted on Lingxiao Pagoda, causing the divine wheel of the great path to make a violent, harsh sound like there was a sword slashing on the pagoda. Lingxiao Pagoda was getting larger, covering the sky and the sun, directly suppressing Storm Demon. But Storm Demon stood proudly in the air, with extremely violent power sweeping toward the surrounding area. His massive and dominant form was akin to an invincible war god of storm, holding a battle axe. That terrifying storm of destruction directly swept into Lingxiao Pagoda, and was affecting its repressive force. Though the pagoda was fighting the storm, it was still suppressing downward nonetheless. At the same time, Ling He also made his move. Lingxi's spear bloomed as the golden streamer directly penetrated the void. The radiant golden divine spear slashed through the air in a direct attack on Storm Demon. But just then, Storm Demon's battle axe had already come down, carrying with it billions of destructive streamers, slashing at the opponent's spear as if it was the end of days. The two attacked and collided, but Ling He disappeared. With such a violent attack, he was able to separate himself with the slightest contact, as if the spear was able to move according to his will, appearing directly in another location, and continued its attack. It was like a golden afterimage, but its power was extremely frightening as it continued to pierce through the space. Buzz! Gusty wind swept past, but the storm demon's reaction was even faster. The battle axe in his hand turned into wind and merged with the storm. As it drew an incomparably radiant arc, it slashed toward Lingxi's spear once more. The attack speed of these two is so fast. The spectators only saw a blur in front of them. In the dark storm of destruction, countless afterimages of Linghe appeared, spreading in different directions. Every appearance was accompanied by the shadow of a golden spear, as if several spears were launched all within a very short moment. But every strike was countered. Lingxi's spear emphasizes the perfect blending between man, spear, and the way, thus making possible the movement at will. Even when it was blocked, it could still break away and attack from another location instantaneously. However, Storm Demon's axe is the same, as if he is a gust of wind, dancing and moving with its momentum. The scary thing was that, in line with the way of this wind, the attack power of his battle axe will become ever stronger, as if he was continuously gaining momentum. Jiang Yueli of Fluttering Snow Palace spoke, partially meant to explain to her junior sisters around her, so that they could better understand the battle. In a brief moment, the two of them had already exchanged numerous times. Just then, a figure swooped down from the void, and the Lingxi spear was still as fast as ever, like golden lightning. At the same time, the storm seemed to pause for an instant, not quite as free-flowing as it was before. Just when the Lingxi spear was about to hit, a monstrous storm blew up against it, tearing the space apart. Everyone saw the storm demon moved so fast that it was hard to see with the naked eye. But, in the next moment, black axe light appeared from the firmament and slamming downward, splitting this part of the sky. The next moment, the golden streamers were knocked out, with speed so fast that it was almost inconceivable. This time, Linghe finally stopped the attack, staring at the storm demon across the sky. There was a cough accompanied by a spit of blood, and his face was a little pale. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2038, Invincible Fighter. Chapter 2038. Invincible Fighter. The dark, destructive storm of the thunder of catastrophe was still roaring in the sky, and the Lingxiao Pagoda was still engulfed in the terrifying tornado. Storm Demon stood in the storm of doomsday in midair, and looked down upon Linghe. Bolts of black lightning struck around Linghe's body as though they were mocking him. Linghe raised his head to look at Storm Demon, extremely distressed and embarrassed. Linghe was the young master of the Lingxiao Palace, and a prominent cultivator in the Donghua heavens, with a perfect divine wheel of the Great Path. But he had been losing over and over again, ever since he met Yi Futian at the Divine Ocean Cliff. A Runhuang from the Desolate God Palace also defeated him in a fight that was issued from discordance and feud between his father, the Palace Lord of the Lingxiao Palace, and the Desolate God. Unfortunately, he lost. Not only did his loss embarrass himself, but it also brought humiliation to his father, who was sitting in the Donghua Palace. "Get off the platform. You are not a match for me," Storm Demon said in a cold and domineering tone, which put Linghe to shame. Beams of frightening golden divine light shone from Linghe's body. He wanted to keep going. Storm Demon moved swiftly in the destructive storm. The thunder of catastrophe fell from the sky and merged with the way of wind. Storm Demon bathed in the destructive storm and transported again. He held the battle axe with both hands and hacked from above, as if he didn't want to leave Linghe any chance to turn the table. A ray of light of darkness became visible and almost split the sky in half. The battle axe struck at Linghe with tremendous strength as soon as he brandished his golden spear. The destructive energy was extremely horrifying and made the earth tremble. Fizz! Cracks appeared on the spear. Linghe was flung away even further, spraying blood from his mouth. How tragic! The cultivators watching from below felt sorry for Linghe. Linghe was the young master of the Lingxiao Palace, a well-known cultivator in the Donghua heavens, a disciple of the Donghua Academy, and a Runhuang with a perfect divine wheel of the Great Path. At this moment, however, he was brought to his knees by Storm Demon. The palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace, sitting in the Donghua Palace, was staring at Storm Demon with a grim expression. Everyone could tell the anger on his face and sensed the dark energy emanated from his body. But the desolate god couldn't care less. He also watched the battlefield below and commented casually, "Not bad. He can withstand Storm Demon's battle axe." Speechless, the top cultivators all shot a strange look at the desolate god, who did not attempt to save face for the palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace at all. The palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace didn't respond. He was at a loss for words. It was a fair fight, and he couldn't complain about the result. Ling He was humiliated like this only because he was less capable. What else could he say? Awkward silence reigned at this moment. Other than the first two fights, this was the fiercest and the most hostile match so far. It was tied up with two of the magnates sitting in the Donghua Palace. Instead of fighting each other themselves, they sent their protégés. Even so, both the Renhuangs in the Nine Heavens and the ordinary audience below were secretly excited by the fights. These were real law battles in which top cultivators were matched against each other and exerted their strength to the utmost. Ninghua and Desolation, Storm Demon and Linghe, both the Renhuangs and the ordinary audience wondered who else would step up. The storm dissipated on the law battle platform, and the destructive energy of the Great Path also disappeared. Linghe walked off the platform, despondent and low-spirited. While walking back, he could feel that countless pairs of eyes were staring at him. It was not easy to endure, even for a Runhuang like him with exceptional mental strength. What he experienced just now was not an ordinary sparring session, but a battle of humiliation. Nevertheless, Storm Demon didn't leave the law battle platform. People were surprised to see him still hovering above the platform. Did he want to have another fight? Sure enough, Storm Demon raised his head and looked in the direction of the seats of the cultivators from Wangshan Watchtower. He said, "I would like to see what the Sword Emperor Lionian is capable of. Please grant me the honor." Yi Futian. All the eyes were fixed on Yi Futian in an instant. It was him again. And it was Storm Demon, who just vanquished Ling He, challenging him this time. However, as powerful as Storm Demon was, he was probably a lesser cultivator than Chen Yi. Chen Yi was already a legend 20 years ago, and excelled at the Sword of Light. His speed and power left a lasting impression on people's minds. Therefore, Storm Demon would certainly lose to Yi Futian. But the fabled Sword Emperor Lionian had become a mountain that everyone was eager to conquer. That was why Storm Demon still wanted to challenge Yi Futian, to further prove himself. After defeating Ling He, he challenged Yi Futian, knowing that he would lose. It was a battle of path-seeking, while the result was secondary. Storm Demon knew himself that a victory was not very likely. A cultivator at his level surely could tell how powerful Yi Futian was. Yi Futian stood up with a calm expression. At such an event, it was beyond question that someone would challenge him sooner or later. He was well prepared from the beginning. Although it was hard for him to meet his match, he could use the opportunity to test the abilities of the talented cultivators from various top forces. He stepped forward and walked into the law battle area again. Looking at Storm Demon in front of him, he said, "Please, please." Storm Demon's face was stern. He was not as arrogant and contemptuous as he was when facing Ling He. It was obvious that he also knew how strong his current opponent was. Yi Futian's divine wheel of the Great Path surpassed geniuses like Desolation and Jiang Yueli. No one in the Donghua domain other than Ning Hua was in the same league as Yi Futian in terms of the divine wheel of the Great Path. Moreover, Yi Futian cultivated several types of power of the Great Path and possessed multiple divine wheels, each of which reached perfection. Storm Demon was also at the Donghua Academy when Yi Futian showed off two fifth-order divine wheels. Yi Futian still had other divine wheels that were not revealed to the public. Those might be even stronger, possibly at the sixth order. Thus, Storm Demon was well aware of Yi Futian's ability. "Please," said Yi Futian. The destructive storm gathered in the sky above him. The entire Great Path domain turned dark and desolate as rays of light of destruction fell from above. The cold moon hanging in the sky kept expanding. Yi Futian moved along with the moon. All of a sudden, a strange phenomenon occurred. The moonbeams froze the area and released frightening power of destruction, which destroyed everything that attempted to attack Yi Futian. The power of Yin. Storm Demon looked at Yi Futian with a solemn face. The endless light of catastrophe fell on Storm Demon, as the world was being transformed into a vast desert. Storm Demon's already burly body kept growing and transfigured him into the desolate god of war. Glowing with the light of destruction, a black battle-axe slowly descended from the destructive storm in the sky. Storm Demon reached out his hand and grabbed the axe. The ravaging light of catastrophe rolled out at the moment. Storm Demon bathed in it, as if he was gathering the energy, poised to attack. Yi Futian certainly understood Storm Demon's intention of making a decisive blow. It would be Storm Demon's most powerful strike. Yi Futian could clearly feel the devastating energy of the attacks coming from above. The cultivators of the desolate god palace came from the Badlands continent. Their specialties were somewhat similar. The moonbeams swept across the area and transformed into streaks of icy sword chi. They circled Yi Futian's body and turned into frightening shadow sword. Endless sword will float around and made shrill whistles that reverberated throughout the area. Finally, the destructive storm fell from the sky in a frenzy. Storm Demon held the battle-axe and chopped downward. The gleam of the axe almost split the sky open. Even the audience could feel the frightening power contained in the axe. The axe moved at lightning speed at first, yet it seemed to slow down when it approached Yi Futian. Then, the crowd saw a frosty sword coming into collision with the axe in midair. It didn't look so terrifying when the sword and the axe met head-on. It almost seemed like two lines converged before one of them was annihilated by the other one. Under everyone's watch, the black line drew by the axe retreated, and eventually wiped out by the other line. With a ray of extremely dazzling light, the sky split open, and the dark world was destroyed. Storm Demon's body was flung upward, and the dark, destructive storm was neutralized. As expected, the audience was more amazed than surprised by the scene. No one, including Storm Demon, could beat Yi Futian. Yi Futian was a legendary fighter who came out of nowhere. The Sword Emperor Lionian remained undefeatable and invincible. High up in the air, Storm Demon recollected himself and looked at Yi Futian, said, "Thank you for the lesson." Then, he walked off the law battle platform without much disappointment. The result was not beyond his expectation. Ling He watched the match with a cold face. Storm Demon, who vanquished and humiliated him just now, lost to Yi Futian. This kind of comparison made him feel bitterer. He was a celebrity from the Lingxiao Palace, yet was not on an equal footing with Yi Futian. A voice rang out just when Yi Futian was about to leave the law battle platform as well. "Please wait for a moment, Run Huangyi." The voice attracted everyone's attention. They all looked in the direction of the voice and saw a ravishing woman walking out. It was Goddess Taihua. Goddess Taihua gazed at Yi Futian in the law battle platform and said, "I wonder if you can give me a chance to play a song for you? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2039, Divine Melody Taihua. Chapter 2039. Divine Melody Taihua. Goddess Taihua came out and personally invited Yi Futian to listen to the Divine Taihua melody. Countless people focused their eyes on them in surprise. No one had thought that Goddess Taihua would come out, but it was not totally beyond reason. Although Yi Futian made a name for himself not too long ago, he was in the full flush of his success and had never lost a fight. He could always gain the upper hand, no matter how talented his opponent was. Aside from not having a celebrated background, he was better than anyone other than Ning Hua, including Goddess Taihua. Therefore, it made sense that Goddess Taihua wanted him to listen to the Divine Melody Taihua. The Sword Emperor Lionian was so powerful that all the genius cultivators from various top forces were eager to challenge him. This was a distinctive way to show their approval. Li Changxing and Zhong Chan darted Yi Futian a glance, both of them smiling. Li Changxing said in a low voice. Brother Yi can always attract beautiful women. Zhong Chan shook his head with a smile. Standing in the law battle area, Yi Futian replied, I certainly will listen if Goddess is willing to play. It's my honor to enjoy the divine Taihua melody. He was not acting humble out of courtesy. He mastered 2 divine melodies himself, and was already interested in the divine melody Taihua. Of course, he was glad to know how unique and remarkable the divine melody Taihua was since Goddess Taihua offered to play for him. After getting Yi Futian's permission, Goddess Taihua stepped forward and walked over to Yi Futian. She soon entered the law battle area and stood face to face with Yi Futian. It seems like Yi Lionian is one of the most extraordinary cultivators at the Donghua banquet this year. Everyone wants to beat him, but no one has achieved it yet. Chief Ning, who was sitting in the Donghua palace, commented, chuckling. The master cultivators had been paying more attention to Yi Futian now. The palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace and Emperor Yan both glanced at Yi Futian. Then, Emperor Yan shot a look at Millet Emperor and said, Millet Emperor trained him well. He was born with remarkable talents. I let him cultivate at Wangshan Watchtower for several months, and didn't have much influence on him. What he has shown in the previous battles are his own skills and abilities. If you believe he only won because of the gate to world suppression, why don't you send a cultivator of the great Yin ancient royal family to challenge him? I will ask him not to use the gate to world suppression. The Millet Emperor replied blankly. Humph! Emperor Zhan uttered a snort and looked away. Even though he was not pleased that the Millet Emperor imparted his unique skill to Yi Futian, he had to admit that the Millet Emperor was telling the truth. No one from the great Yin ancient royal family could beat Yi Futian, even if he didn't use the gate to world suppression. No one was even close. Yi Futian didn't use the gate to world suppression when he fought against Storm Demon. The Millet Emperor is right. Yi Lionian is a top-level cultivator even without the gate to world suppression. I'm afraid he is unrivaled among his peers. Thunder Punishing Skylord spoke with a smile. These master cultivators all had a good eye for talents. There was no doubt that Yi Futian was much superior to everyone else. Let's see if he can withstand the divine melody Taihua, said the palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace. He darted a glance at Taihua Skylord and added, It's a divine melody composed by you. Your niece is also nothing but extraordinary. I think she should be able to win against Yi Lionian this time. It's not easy. The Taihua Skylord gazed at the law battle platform and replied calmly, I would be more confident if she challenged someone else. This youngster is truly amazing. I'm not certain if the divine Taihua melody can overpower him. It's about to begin. Let's watch. Chief Ning smiled and said. Inside of the law battle area, Goddess Taihua was glowing with celestial light. Her beauty was out of this world. She bowed slightly at Yi Futian and said, I beg your pardon, Ren Huangyi. Please, Goddess, Yi Futian replied. Goddess Taihua sat down in midair with her legs crossed. Countless strings of the great path took shape as soon as she reached out her slender hands. The strings covered every inch of the sky and turned the law battle area into her own great path domain. A guqin appeared in front of Goddess Taihua. She plucked the strings with her fingers. The forceful and stirring tone made everyone's hearts tremble, both the Renhuangs in the 9 heavens and cultivators sitting in the lower areas. Clang, clang, clang. Goddess Taihua bowed her head and immersed herself in playing the guqin, as if no one else was nearby. She radiated the celestial light, her long black hair blowing in the wind. Her elegance dazed many people. The tone was rich and vigorous, and the vibrant notes formed a symphony of the great path. Standing in the great path domain of the strings, Yi Futian could hear the music clearly. His heart trembled at every beat, and the notes stifled his spiritual soul. He felt like a range of mountains was pressing on his soul. At this moment, Yi Futian had a feeling that he was no longer standing in the law battle platform. Instead, he was put in a world of music, where divine mountains came down from the sky one after another. Each one of them contained unparalleled force, which made him exceptionally small beneath the mountains. His heart was palpitating, and his blood was rushing in the veins. The divine melody Taihua. Yi Futian had been exposed to music before, including 2 divine melodies. But he had never heard something so powerful before. Nothing he experienced in the past was as energetic as the divine melody Taihua. He could feel the splendor and glory of the great path, and the triviality of himself. Right now, the divine melody symbolized the heavenly path that was overwhelming and irresistible. Yi Futian also felt a tremendous amount of pressure. He emitted the divine light of the great path from his body. But the pressure from the music was intangible. Another note fell upon him at this moment. He felt like his body was being slammed by an invisible force. The divine mountains were collapsing on him, and the world he was in was being destroyed. The great path around him was also sagging and crumbling. Any energy he released was neutralized immediately. The stars circling him were shattered and annihilated. His spiritual soul was being pounded again and again. The great path inside Yi Futian's body was also under attack. Everything was about to be destroyed by the divine Taihua melody. Countless pairs of eyes were glued to the law battle platform. It was the first time Yi Futian was being subdued. Many people were staggered to see the great path gathering around Yi Futian's body and immediately falling to pieces. No one expected Goddess Taihua to be so frightening. It appeared that they underestimated the top cultivators in the Donghua domain, after all. Although Goddess Taihua had fought against other people before, she didn't reveal the true power of the divine melody, since her opponents were less worthy. That's what the divine melody Taihua can do. It looks like Yi Lionian is about to lose, Chief Ning commented while watching the law battle platform. Other master cultivators were shocked as well. Taihua Skylord was a hermit who rarely communicated with the outside world. He immersed himself in cultivation and studied the divine melodies assiduously. The 10 divine melodies of the divine prefecture all had a long history. Cultivators could gain great power and significant benefits if they comprehended them thoroughly. No one knew to what extent Taihua Skylord mastered the divine melodies, but they could all venture a rough guess by listening to Goddess Taihua's performance today. Indeed, I didn't realize your niece is so phenomenal. I guess only Ninghua is a match for her in all of the Donghua domain, the palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace said. Maybe Yi Lionian can come up with more surprises? Emperor Shi laughed. It's not over yet. Let's keep watching for now. That youngster hasn't lost a single match so far. Right. Everyone else nodded. Apart from the big shots in the Donghua Palace, cultivators from top forces sitting below were also surprised to see the invincible Yi Futian being held in check. They didn't expect Goddess Taihua to be so powerful. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2040, Clash of Divine Melodies. Chapter 2040, Clash of Divine Melodies. Standing on the law battle platform, Yi Futian sensed that the power of the great path around his body was still being crushed and suppressed. The notes were interwoven into an illusory world where Yi Futian was placed in. It was a world of rhythmic sorcery and a great path domain that belonged to the divine Taihua melody. Yi Futian's mind was dashed by the music violently and repeatedly. If not for his strong spiritual will and stable spiritual soul, he would have been severely injured by now. His spiritual will would have been collapsed and his spiritual soul wrecked. At this point, Yi Futian emitted extremely dazzling green divine light from his body. The divine light didn't seem to contain the power of the great path, but it still possessed extraordinary life force. At this moment, everyone felt like Yi Futian was full of vigor and vitality. It was as if he was an immortal being that couldn't be exterminated. The life force from the divine light built up Yi Futian's physical body and strengthened his spiritual will. Many people sitting in the Donghua Palace were surprised by its effect. Did the way of life give strength to Yi Futian? The way of life was the foundation of everything. It might not seem particularly practical, but it was the ultimate source of everything. People who excelled at the way of life would have an easier experience cultivating other types of power of the great path. They had more life energy and a stronger spiritual will, which would help them gain an advantage over their peers. Yi Futian felt much better when the life force filled his body. His blood flow rate gradually returned to normal, and his spiritual will was not as shaken up as before. He collected himself and regained his footing. As expected, defeating him doesn't appear to be an easy task. The thunder-punishing Skylord laughed. For some unknown reason, he had remained very confident about Yi Futian. Maybe it was because of their encounter at the Divine Ocean Cliff. The Divine Tree. The Millet Emperor gazed at Yi Futian. Yi Futian ate the Divine Tree at the Eastern Deity Island, which filled his body with extra energy. It was much harder to kill them than other cultivators at the same level as him. Moreover, the life force he gained at that time was helping him hold out against the Divine Taihua melody right now. Nevertheless, how would Yi Futian fight back? At this point, Yi Futian also sat down with his legs crossed at the center of the law battle platform. The great path transformed into strings as soon as he reached out his hand. To everyone's surprise, a guqin materialized in front of him as well. The audience was stunned. What did he want to do? This guy. Has he lost his mind? The audience below all had the same thought in their minds. Their eyes were glued to him, who intended to play the guqin in front of Goddess Taihua. On top of that, Goddess Taihua was playing the Divine Melody Taihua. Did Yi Futian want to use music to fight against the Divine Melody Taihua? Although no one could deny Yi Futian's incredible talents, they were still astounded by his arrogance. Even if Yi Futian was good at music, he should think twice about who he was facing right now. The common folks were not the only ones shocked by Yi Futian's move. Even the cultivators from various top forces were stunned. With an odd look on their faces, they wondered what Yi Futian was attempting to do. He is going beyond his depth. Some cultivator from the great Yin ancient royal family ridiculed him in a sneering voice. Yi Futian was asking to be embarrassed by showing off his musical talent in front of Goddess Taihua. I remember that he revealed his guqin divine wheel at the Donghua Academy, right? Jiang Yueli asked. Qin Qing nodded and replied, yes, he did. It matched his swordsmanship. Despite that, no one reckoned Yi Futian's chances of success. He should take his opponent into consideration, even though he possessed the guqin divine wheel. The master cultivators sitting in the Donghua Palace were confounded by him as well. Chief Ning asked with a smile. What was he going to do? Use music to combat the divine Taihua melody. How creative! The palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace said in a mocking tone. Let's have a look. Perhaps this guy can also play the guqin well, the Taihua Skylord said. The rest of the people nodded and continued to watch the law battle platform in silence. Sitting with legs crossed, Yi Futian started to pluck the strings of the great path, and the music flowed from the guqin. The note seemed to be a little jumbled, and could hardly form a melody under the divine Taihua melody's influence. But Yi Futian was playing the guqin with absorbed attention. The musical notes of the divine Taihua melody kept attacking him, yet he acted as if he wasn't affected at all. He played his own music without speaking a word, completely engrossed in his own world. Endless sword will circled his body. The musical notes facilitated the emergence of more and more sword will, which was rushing wildly in the area. The audience even sensed a twinge of sorrow as the music continued. A strange look appeared on people's faces. They got in the mood and started to hear the melody played by Yi Futian. Moreover, Yi Futian's melody grew stronger and stronger, and took shape in defiance of the divine Taihua melody. The tunes were doleful and melancholic to their ears, as though each note was drenched with profound sadness, and each melody was filled with lasting regret. The great path was flowing around wildly, and the sword will rampaged through the sky, and turned into a frightening path of the sword. Goddess Taihua glanced at Yi Futian with her beautiful eyes. Her face grew solemn. The divine Taihua melody became even more forceful and vigorous, charging at Yi Futian. But the music Yi Futian was playing was wild and arrogant. It was as if it was going to pierce through the sky. The great path was roaring, and the tones were shrill, fighting against the great path. Bang! Two radically different types of invisible sonic waves came into collision with each other in midair, and generated disturbing currents of the great path. The illusory divine mountains that had been dominating the area were also crumbling. Buzz! The gust howled and blew up Yi Futian's silver hair. The disturbing currents of the great path stormed toward the divine mountains. The two types of music were contending as though two different concepts of the great path were dashing against each other. Bang! The law battle area shook violently. Goddess Taihua plucked the strings with full strength. A series of notes rushed out and trembled the world. Countless divine mountains were dropped from the sky and crushed everything, including the spiritual soul. Yi Futian's figures also plucked the strings. The great path flowed backward and turned the tide. A sword river of the great path appeared and surged upward, destroying everything it touched. Two types of destructive power met head-on. In an instant, a terrifying scene became visible around their bodies. It looked like they were situated in an unstable space that could collapse any second. The great path there was all going to be annihilated. All the master cultivators sitting in the Donghua Palace watched the law battle area with a serious expression. Taihua Skylord gazed at Yi Futian's figure and muttered, "The lost sound of the great path, song of the lost divine." "Marvelous," said the thunder-punishing Skylord. "I didn't know it would be a clash of divine melodies. It's a nice surprise indeed." Emperor Yan and the palace lord of the Lingxiao Palace were taken aback. They obviously didn't realize that Yi Futian could also play the divine melody so well that he would fight the divine Taihua melody with the Song of the Lost Divine. A surprise for sure. The Song of the Lost Divine has been lost to the divine prefecture for many years, right? Chief Ning said. Staring at Yi Futian, he showed a look of incredulity. This was the first time for him to be truly astonished by Yi Futian's ability. The cultivators of the top forces sitting below were also amazed. This is the Song of the Lost Divine? They overheard the conversation in the Donghua Palace and couldn't help but look at Yi Futian on the law battle platform in silent wonder. Yi Futian was going beyond his depth. He used music to combat the divine Taihua melody played by goddess Taihua. What he played was another divine melody. The audience sitting in lower heavens was simmering with excitement. Countless people whispered to each other, while some exclaimed loudly, "Song of the Lost Divine." They said it's the Song of the Lost Divine, one of the 10 divine melodies. 2 divine melodies confronted each other today. Some people stared at the law battle platform with an animated look. Sword Emperor Liuyan. Others gazed at Yi Futian, who shocked the crowd at the Donghua banquet. They heard about his extraordinary performance at the Donghua Academy in the past, but no one had seen him fighting for real. Yi Futian truly displayed his unparalleled talents at the Donghua banquet and blew people's minds again and again. Apart from his previous matches, he was battling against goddess Taihua with the divine melody right now. So powerful. People looked at Yi Futian with admiration. This man seemed to be perfect and invincible. There was nothing he couldn't do. 2 energetic melodies were still wrestling with each other. The clash of the music on the law battle platform made the disturbing currents of the great path stronger and stronger, shaking the entire law battle area. Nevertheless, the 2 melodies seemed to be played without being affected by each other. The divine Taihua melody suppressed the great path with full might, and the Song of the Lost Divine filled people with eternal regrets and deep sorrow. Their bodies were engulfed by the disturbing currents of the great path. The music sped up, and the clash became more violent. Bang! The music stopped abruptly after a deafening sound. Goddess Taihua was flung high up into the sky, and Yi Futian was pushed back. Both of them stopped playing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.